What's going on, everybody and nobody at the same time? I'm going to try to give it a couple of minutes, let people join because I just hacked my last live stream. I don't want to waste time. There's so much I want to cover, so little time to do it, even though I really kind of am unlimited on the time. I don't want to spend the next 2 hours breaking down every small detail. I think you guys are more than intelligent enough to pick up the pieces in between the jumps. So, that being said, I'm going to use that to my advantage and try to skate through as much of this as I possibly can. But this is very, very important. It's not often where I make a video twice and talk about the exact same material, but this I could probably do all week, if not all month. Because the ramifications of what's being said and what it really means when you stop and listen to what is being said and what that means to you. This is a very, very powerful person who is in control of everybody below her, which is everybody, politically speaking, in New York. Your police chiefs, your attorney generals, your district attorneys, congressmen, senators. So to hear the language that I heard yesterday for the first time, it was a mixed reaction, if I'm being honest. One, it was like, yeah, I've been expecting this, right? Again, this is what I've based my entire channel off, where these days that we are stepping into now and what that would look like. And we're here. It's still kind of astonishing to me. I don't know if I would ever really get used to the fact that they're just overtly talking about overriding, overstepping your fundamental rights, your freedoms, your constitutional freedoms. Turn the chat on. Welcome, Kutz, Jen, P4, Carmadoc, James. Welcome, James. Appreciate you being here, brother. I already said what's up to everybody else in the last live stream that I just chopped. I want to play this from the beginning again. And yes, I'm going to interject, but I have some stuff up as well that I want to cover. But I don't think I could do any more justice to this cause. Now, when all those years that I've been saying that this was coming, I was called a conspiracy theorist, an extremist, a radical. They'll be calling you all of it, right? And this is the exact same thing that she says that they're looking out for now. So I would have been on that list. I'm sure I am, but just trying to let people know in advance, like, hey, it looks like this is happening. Looks like this will lead to this, and this is probably going to be the outcome of it. No, you're a crazy nut job conspiracy theorist, and these are the things that lead to radicalization online, and as such, you're a threat being monitored by the likes of DHS, FBI, fusion centers, your local police. And the list goes on, of course. Think about all of them. Let me go ahead and play it before I keep rambling.
You'll be hearing from Sheikh Musa has joined us. We'll be hearing from him momentarily. Eric Goldstein from the UJA Federation as well. And I'm also want to welcome all of you. Across our state, New Yorkers are afraid. If they have family or friends in Israel, in Gaza, other places, they're afraid for their safety. At home, many people are wrestling with the fear for the first time ever, sometime in their lives, of being the victim of a hate crime. I wish I could tell you these concerns are misplaced. But tragically, the data all
Nope, not misplaced. Chances are you're going to be the victim of a hate crime, according to Kathy Hochul. I keep seeing these numbers. They're all over the place. Nobody can seem to really agree on a percentage of how many hate crimes have occurred, actual hate crimes with a victim, not just saying some uncomfortable words online. Which brings me to my favorite new term, bias incidents, which I briefly mentioned yesterday. Had to look into it today to see exactly what bias incidents are, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It's your biases leading you to say things that may be perceived to be uncomfortable for people. That alone now allows the full force of the federal government and local state authorities to begin monitoring, tracking, and visit you and re-educate you and steer you away from your crazy mass shooter life that is guaranteed ahead of you.
all across America is showing that hate crimes have surged in the last 6 weeks. Since October 7th, there's been a 400% increase in threats against Jews, Muslims, and Arabs. And make no mistake, we've not stood idly by.
Make no mistake, they don't care about anybody but the Jews. And the reason I say that is because, well, that's where they're all getting their paychecks, right? That's where the money's coming from. You can tell by when you, like, they played this double side and they keep doing the divide and conquer strategies and splitting. Like, look at your Candace Owens and your Ben Shapiro's and how that's all playing out, and the Tucker Carlson. It's a joke, right? It's divide and conquer, but they're dividing the divide. I call it splitting the divide. It's when there's already a divide in place, right? Like you take one group of people, Americans, and then you're like, shit, if these guys ever get like pissed off at us being the government, right? If they ever get pissed off at us, they can do a lot of damage. We need to split it up, right? So they've known this for centuries. That's why when this country was founded, I mean, it's not so much a check and balance. They have the two political party system. I think there was divine intervention, and I think there was like the opposite of that as well during the creation of this country. This country is very prophetic, and I think it holds a lot of future history. But nonetheless, you take your two sides, and as the population grows over time, either the left or the right has a pretty substantial population and could both do a lot of damage to an out-of-line government. So what do? You got to divide the divide. You got to split the divide. You got to go in there with something like an Israel-Palestine type thing, and you split them up, right? Now you got your far-right extremists, but you got some that realize what's going on and who's really at the helm controlling everything. And then you got the other neocon far-right extremists that are just bought, brainwashed, paid for, typical subservient, boot-licking bastards that take in everything that they're told to take in. No questions asked. No critical thinking. And they'll do it again. They will keep dividing as much as it takes. So we continue to fight amongst each other, point the fingers at one another, and never point them at who is doing it all. Who the problem really is.
By. My number one priority has been and will continue to be protecting the safety of our residents. That's why I want to inform you about some of the actions that we're taking to keep New Yorkers safe from extremism and violence.
Listen closely. Actions taken to keep New Yorkers safe from extremism and violence. I'm cool with the violence. Extremism, no, not so much, because one extreme to somebody might be a walk in the park, another. It's subjective. There is no objective reality to speak of when you're speaking of these broad brush terms. And they do that obviously with the intent of making sure that they can interchange the definitions to be whatever it is that they need it to be to go after whoever it is that they need to go after.
We have a 4-pillar plan. It's comprehensive and it's far-reaching. First of all, we're strengthening.
Far-reaching. I'm going to keep doing this. I have to do this. Like I said, there's a lot crammed in this little bitty speech.
Strengthening physical security of locations. We're also making the digital world safer by identifying credible online threats.
Credible online threats. We'll see what she means by this as she goes on and espouses exactly the very generic terms that allow the government now to monitor and surveil you at their will.
And we're also calling out social media companies who have failed their responsibility to create a safe public square and creating resources and toolkits for parents and schools alike. First, let me share how we've already taken action to protect our vulnerable communities safe and to protect physical security. 2 weeks ago, I told you.
Oh, let me ask you real quick, Carrie. When did you subscribe to this channel? Because I know you said you've seen it like a month ago or whatever on a comment. I'm just curious. When did you subscribe?
Told New Yorkers we were activating law enforcement to protect them. We mobilized state police to protect at-risk sites. We established a hate and bias reporting hotline. We made $50 million available for local law enforcement, $25 million to protect vulnerable locations. We also encouraged the use and understanding of our red flag laws to ensure that guns don't get into the hate-filled hands of individuals looking to do harm to others. That's just the start. Let's talk today about what we're trying to do to make the digital world safer. We know that social media is an emotion amplifier. If the emotion is love, and that's amplified, that is a good dynamic.
Do you mean my avatar, the little guy on the side? The only reason I'm asking is because I pay close attention to these kind of things, so I know how the algorithms are working. I know how the code is. I learn a little bit more, and since how you're relatively new, I was just curious. So you were already subscribed about a couple of weeks ago, maybe, and you clicked on a thumbnail, or you clicked on my avatar? I'm just curious.
If the emotion is hate, and that's amplified, that's the chaos that we're falling into today. It can also amplify the hate that just boils up from this toxic stew of ignorance, and it becomes festered online. So we're creating strategies, first time ever, to help identify hate at the source and prevent crimes before they occur. As I've often said, I'd rather be in the business of preventing crimes than solving them.
Did you guys just hear that?
And that's where and prevent crimes before they festered online.
No.
So we're creating strategies.
Even further.
It can also amplify the hate that just boils up from this toxic stew of ignorance, and it becomes festered on.
So a toxic brew of ignorance. People just sharing shit apparently that she or other people may find offensive or ignorant. Okay. I don't mean to like put you on the spot or nothing. I like it does help me. So that's why I ask. So Kathy's concerned that there's people having discussions. Some of them may be ignorant, and some of them may allow a festering of unpopular ideas to the surface. Where's the crime? Why are we listening to the governor of New York tell us about all of the actions? And trust me, when we start getting into the actual nitty gritty of this, as I will show you the dollar signs that are behind this, it's not some small endeavor. This is a massive undertaking by New York State. Massive undertaking. To go after who exactly? And for what reason? For our constitutionally protected speech? For fundamental rights that we are guaranteed? And yes, it is New York now, but it is your state next. This was happening in another country a few months ago, and I was like, yes, this is the new world order. It's in another country now, but it will be here next. Now it's here, and the same is true with other states. They're not playing around. They will round your ass up. If we allow them to get away with shit like this. Kathy Hochul's office phone number is a Google search away. These are your representatives. These people are voted into office. Well, in Kathy's case, I don't know exactly how she got there. Nobody knew who she was. Came out of nowhere and took Andrew Cuomo's job because he grabbed a girl's ass or something like that. And now we have this tyrant who is saying she should be removed from her position on this speech alone. Using the taxpayers' resources, their money, they're taking money, that huge, especially if you live in New York, that huge chunk of money they take out, one of the highest in the country, probably like second to none, if not the highest. It's way up there. To do what? To go after you. For what? For speaking? For having an opinion? For being critical of the government? Or people in power?
Online. So we're creating strategies, first time ever, to help identify hate at the source and prevent crimes before they occur.
That's one of the biggest takeaways of this entire thing. Let's hear it again.
As I've often said, I'd rather be in the business. First time ever, to help identify hate at the source and prevent crimes before they occur. Online. So we're creating strategies, first time ever, to help identify hate at the source and prevent crimes before they occur.
Hate at the source. What does that mean? Well, it means there's going to be, and we'll see again how much money that is being thrown at this, and the amount of government and local law enforcement and fusion centers and all of that wonderful nonsense to be going after people that are well within the purview of their legal limits. But because there may be a chance that you might do something because some shooters somewhere years ago had a similar belief system, which when those things occurred, when I reported on those false flags and psyops, it was always under that reason, right? I was like, well, they're doing this so later on they can say you fit the profile. Now, it took a while to get here, but we're here now, and she is saying those things. It's funny how that works, right? Like, I used to look forward to, not forward, like looking forward to, but I used to look ahead to those days and be like, well, this is what it will be. Now, I look back and do the opposite. I'm like, well, remember when I was saying that shows where we are? I don't doubt it. I'll look into it, Gary.
As I've often said, I'd rather be in the business of preventing crimes than solving them. And that's where our threat assessment and management teams come in, the TAM teams. This is an initiative I actually launched
The TAM teams.
over a year and a half ago in the aftermath of the Buffalo massacre when a racist
False flag. PSYOP.
after a racist shooting by a white supremacist who targeted 10 of my neighbors. That's when we activated more
Just real quick, the reason there's BitChute, they may still be up on BitChute. That one was blown wide open as well, just like a lot of the ones that the media chooses to focus on because they can control the narrative. The Buffalo shooting was about as fake as it gets, right? The shots, the 3 shots I think it was that went in through the windows that supposedly killed a man, and the angle in which it was, and where that person was standing, and how, like the video footage where he was on the ground, showed the bullet in the background, and the angle, and the people. There's people that are good at what they do, right? And they'll show angles, they'll draw lines from this and be like, well, there's no possible way because it would have hit the beam. That type of shit. That was just one of the many. It's almost always without fail that anytime the mainstream media, because there's mass shootings all the time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they don't exist, because they certainly do. People kill people. Evil motherfuckers kill people a lot. That happens. Not just in this country, but all over the place. That does happen. What's up, Bob? Good to see you. The difference is the ones that the media choose to focus on and beat over and over and over. 3 nights in a row, constant footage. They're showing this. Back in the day, they used to show a lot more than they did. But then they got wise to the fact that the more they show, the more it gives the people the opportunity to call BS. Right? I think they got Orlando Massacre was probably their last real explosive disaster. The gay nightclub, when people started getting the blueprints, the layout, and just destroying that whole narrative. Just completely annihilating it. Same thing with Sandy Hook, but people were kind of new to it when that was coming out for the most part. But now we got a lot of shotgun armchair detectives that are like brilliant.
or surveillance of credible threats for harm online. They work to track and stop violent acts of hate before they happen. And today I'm announcing $3 million. In addition,
So $3 million is what she's announcing, but wait till we see how much money she's spending on similar nonsense.
investment to ensure that every single college campus now has these on the state of New York, in the state of New York.
No, what was she going to say? Now has these on. Now every single college campus now has these on. Who has on? What were you saying, Kathy? Are you saying that every single college campus is going to, because you're violating people's rights. The government is not supposed to have the power to use our own tax dollars, our money that we slave over, we work our asses off so they can take half of it, so they can use a huge chunk of that money to start going after the very people that are paying it? Are you kidding me? I mean, if we're breaking the law, fine. But preventative measures to try to identify these people? I mean, listen to the words that she's saying. Far-reaching. Stop the hate at the source. Catch them early in the beginning. It's one thing after another. It's Newspeak. 1984.
So let me be clear. These teams are working to identify violent threats. They're
violent threats, not people making threats of violence. That's what we would normally think, but she already laid it out. Now they do this little bit of like, listen, if you're just posting stuff and blah 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 blah, but even when she says that, they leave a lot out.
They're not looking at your Instagram sunset post or your tweets about your favorite football team.
Nope. No, they're not going to be looking at your sunset post or football teams. All right, anything about politics, Kathy?
And they're not here to penalize anyone for their political views.
Oh, that's good.
They have a simple goal: to find out what's driving hateful behavior.
To find out what's driving hateful behavior. What does that entail? I would imagine an entire psych team. Because if that's what they're looking for to identify, because that's what she just said, they're not going to be doing this and that and the other thing. They're going to be, let's play it again.
And intervene early before penalize anyone for their political views. They have a simple goal: to find out what's driving hateful behavior and intervene early before harm is done.
Intervene early is the key word there. Intervene early. What's up, Tab? Good to see you. Been hitting a lot of them lately. Glad you're back. Early. That means before you've even radicalized. And we know what their term radicalized means. It doesn't even necessarily mean radical. It just means that you think that the government is bullshit, that they've overstepped their bounds, that the Hunter Biden laptop story was real, that the mRNA jab wasn't tested the way it should have been, that, I mean, it goes on and on and on. We've already heard them tell us that these are extreme conspiracy theories that are spreading misinformation and radicalizing people. They've told us, God knows how many videos I've made. That's been my channel. So all of that shit, that was like just your average person. Now they're saying we want to get that early. We want to know what makes that person, before they even post, I'm not so sure about getting my 5th booster shot. Why? What did they seen a post? Well, let's track that post down. Oh, this person, he's a doctor, doesn't matter. He's an extremist. He's a radical. Made him post that nonsense. The mainstream media, CNN and MSNBC, clearly told him what to say. Foolish man. Took a Hippocratic oath and decided to stand by the oath that he swore. Unlike some other people.
And to give people who are being radicalized online an off-ramp.
Oh, thank God. I was concerned because watching shit like this, I feel like my blood pressure rising a little bit. It kind of gets me pissed off. I tend to make videos about it. Clearly radicalized. I need an off-ramp. And I am sure Kathy Hochul has a team standing by right now. absorbing all of the data, connecting all the necessary dots so they can fit me nice and easily into some type of re-education program. Because clearly I need it. And so do you for being here.
They work with mental health professionals, establish reporting systems, so classmates and others can raise red flags and train adults how to spot the warning signs. We have 36 county-based TAM teams right now. Again, these are the threat assessment and management teams. They're already tackling over 50 cases now as we speak. But that's just one strategy to help protect New Yorkers online. We're building off the success of other initiatives. We already use targeted ads to encourage people to anonymously seek help from trained counselors. We have that going on as we speak. But also help parents understand what's available to them if they start seeing signs that their own child could be radicalized online, because I assure you most parents are never aware. And we're also continuing to train our mental health professionals in de-radicalization strategies. But here's the truth. So much of this hate originates on social media platforms like TikTok.
Here's the truth. She's about to get real with us. This originates on social media, like TikTok, but social media.
Who refuse to take action necessary to protect our children and young.
So what she's really talking about is X, right? Because this is the huge charade that's being played. Ever since Tucker Carlson ever since Elon Musk bought X. Now, I do not think for 1 second that any of it was organic. These people, like a century ago, they were planning 20, 30 years in advance. I would imagine not only are they doing the same now, but they probably, considering the technology we have and the ability to really hold on to data, they're probably extending that a good decade or two, if not more. Right? So their plans, I always forget who says it, but it was a government insider. I think it was even a president or a vice president, says nothing, absolutely nothing in government ever happens by accident. If it looks like it happened by accident, it didn't. It was designed, it was created. Like your fumbling, bumbling Joe who continually walks off stage shaking people's hands that aren't there. You don't think that that shit is 100% created so they can have one side screaming, "Oh my God, he is an idiot, and look what he's doing to our country, this old senile man." No, this is a controlled demolition, and they'd rather you assume that it's being done by incompetence rather than being intentional.
And young people. Just look at what happened this week. A prominent message shared on TikTok.
Not only do I see through Elon, Carrie, I happen to know Elon once upon a time.
Was one from none other than the mastermind of the 9/11 massacre of thousands of New Yorkers, Osama bin Laden. It was shocking to see young people extolling the virtues of a terrorist kingpin. That only proves the power that social media has over our young people. And therefore, they have a responsibility.
Also see through you.
I refuse to accept this as the new status quo. That's why I'm pushing back against these companies, pushing back hard. And as the steward of the 21st century public square, TikTok and other social media companies, they must start to regulate vile hate speech that originates on their platforms. They say they do this, but it's a responsibility they've obviously neglected to uphold. That's why I've called out the leadership of every major social media company to express not just my indignation, but to demand that they take concrete action to reduce the sickening hate that is being spread on their sites. They need better oversight, they need larger moderation teams, and greater transparency. And I told them that in a letter that I'll be releasing to all of them today. So,
with what authority? What authority does the government have to start? Let's say you want to create a business tomorrow. Let's say, I don't know. I like that type of thing. I like technology, programming. I'm not saying I'm a programmer or I could do anything, or just saying that it would be an interesting endeavor to take on to create a social media platform. The Phoenix Project was a pretty interesting start to that. Um, so let's say it gets off, starts doing well. I start getting like 100,000 people. That's my private business. Anybody who decides to join, that's fine, that's cool. But where does the government get off dictating to me that people are having opinions, that they're sharing hate speech or anti Semitism or anything else that is not clearly defined as a violation of your first? Like, I mean, if it isn't illegal, then get the out. Back in the day, she would have been hung. This is treasonous, right? Now, I hope nothing bad happens to Kathy Hochul, other than she goes back to the bottomless pit and where she came from. But I don't believe in violence. I hate to see violence being done on anybody, but it's almost always without fail the government doing it to the people. So much so that when they want to pretend and portray that there's this violent threat, that they have to stage and create these psyops that people poke holes, so many holes in them that they turn out to be Swiss cheese. And then move on to the next. Like, what about Governor Whitmer? Whatever happened to that, right? Remember the governor that was getting kidnapped by those far right extremists? What happened to that? What happened to Governor Whitmer? Oh, you mean the feds were setting it up? You mean it was supposed to look like this? Yes. It's what they do. It's time to remove these people from the face of their office. You can't sit there and violate our constitutional rights and still be allowed to carry on as if nothing ever happened. Now, may I use your phone, Melissa? I doubt I'll be able to get through. But this is what we all need to be doing. My phone. Is that the right one? Okay. 518, which isn't my area code. I don't know where she's from. I have to look that up. 474 8390.
Hello, you've reached the office of Governor Kathy Hochul. Our normal business hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. To contact the governor directly, you may send a fax to 518-474-1513 or send mail to the Honorable Kathy Hochul, NYS Executive Chamber, State Capitol, Albany, New York, 12224. You may also contact her through her website at www.governor.ny.gov. To leave a message sharing your ideas and opinions to help shape New York's future, please press 1. To repeat these options, please press 3.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hi, Kathy Hochul. I am one of your constituents, and I have to say I am extremely worried about your tyrannical overreach. Never before have I ever seen any politician, let alone a governor of a state, try to create these imaginative terms such as bias incidents. So you're allocating a lot of the money that I work hard for and try to feed my family as the prices continue to go up on everything. But yet you're using a lot of that money to go after people that are not doing anything illegal. But they may be, right? It's about a radicalization process. And what I say to that is, you're a piece of shit. And I am going to do every single thing that I can in my power to wake as many people up to your tyranny and have you removed from office. Now, if this was the days of past, not only would you be removed, but other things that I think would probably be necessary would be done as well. I don't know what those would be, but I think you should stay far away from office. That's for sure. But your whole speech about checking to make sure people aren't posting anything that is critical of the government, basically, that's what you're saying, right? Like, what is this radicalization that you want to It's bullshit. I was talking about this years ago because you guys are so predictable and you move incrementally, and now your time's up. People are going to see you for what you are, you fucking demon.
That's very good.
So stuff like that, you should probably leave her a message, let her know, because it's not your governor, maybe, I don't know, you probably don't live in New York, but if you don't let them know, you have to let them know that you're not okay with it. They're just going to steamroll ahead if you don't.
So, I'm expecting a response. I'm expecting a response from all of them. Now you know what we're doing in our attempt to stop hate on social media. I want to be clear about what we're not doing. We're not preventing anyone from exercising their First Amendment rights to speak. We're not preventing anyone's right to peacefully assemble. We're not blocking anyone from expressing opposition or support for political or military action in the Middle East. That's what we're not doing. But we're not tolerating the spread of hate. That's the difference. And the final component of our efforts centers around empowering educators and parents about the power of these radicalization efforts and how to take steps toward de-radicalization, to dial down the temperature, to bring back some sense of calm and normalcy that seems...
That's not their job. That's not the government's job. That's what... Is that what our... No. Do not accept this. If you accept this, what do you think's coming next? There has to be an end point where we say enough is enough. We are not allowing this bullshit. And if it is not now, then it is not ever. You have to... I'm telling... God, listen, I've been right a lot more than I have cared to been right. I promise you. What I know what's coming for me. That's a part of what I've always known. That's the risk I've accepted from day one when I decided to start doing this. I know how it's going to wrap up. I know how I'm going to get out. I know what that's going to mean for me. But it won't mean the same for you guys unless we do something about it.
Seems to be so evasive these days. Let's start with our schools. Today I'm directing the director of Division of...
And again, I want to make it perfectly clear that violence is absolutely the worst thing that we could do. Any type of violent act would only be used against us. And I have to keep saying this because they're trying to, and most of the people that are in the know, that are understanding what's going on around us, are completely aware that that would be the most foolish thing you could do. All you're going to do is give them media coverage, being like, oh, this was the person's beliefs and look what they did. They carried out violence, yada yada. Chalk them up and give them they don't have enough of us to, so they have to create that, right? There aren't people that think like us usually aren't violent at all. They want to prevent the government wrath that ends up coming down on innocent people. They want to prevent the foreign wars that are slaughtering countless lives. Look at Ukraine. Look what they just did to Ukraine. There is not a young man left in that country. They wiped out an entire generation because it's one of BlackRock's first smart cities. So it would make sense when you're building all of this, you don't want a young populace of men that would be able to resist you. So let's throw them against the Russian war machine and let them all die. They want, these are the war-hungry pieces of shit that are willing to they don't care about life. They will say all of these things that, we care so much about you that we want to identify hate at its source. No, they want to identify you and make sure that you don't step out of line and that you be a good little yes man and obey.
Homeland Security and Emergency Services to develop media literacy tools for K through 12 in our public schools. This will teach students and even teachers to help understand how to spot conspiracy theories and misinformation, disinformation, and online hate.
Bob, you know the answer to that? And I don't care how it sounds or what you believe. The answer to that lies here with you. It lies with you. It lies with what you guys do. Oh, an interesting collection of...
And by teaching younger New Yorkers about how to discern between digital fact and digital fiction, we can better inoculate them from hatred and the spread of it, and help prepare them for a very fast-moving and often confusing world. And now I want to speak to parents directly. As a mom.
Oh, yeah.
I know as we approach this holiday season, Thanksgiving, it offers a meaningful and sometimes rare opportunity to gather everyone around the table. Your children, younger, high school students, college kids who may be home for the first time since they left you in August. I encourage you to talk to...
Exactly, Jen. Exactly. That's been the point. It's easy to miss a lot of this. Every single word has been carefully chosen. This speech obviously has been written down like most speeches, but I've been doing this a long time. This is a first on many. Not only is this the obvious, clearly the first most tyrannical, overreaching, overstep by the government that I've ever seen, period. Never before has the government said, like, look, yeah, you're not breaking any laws, but we're going to use your money to start looking into what you're doing because we don't like what you're saying. Too fucking bad. Too bad. You piece of shit. Who the hell do you think you are? We, the people, we are this country. There's overblown, these corporate payouts. Oh my God, this government is so screwed up. We need to take it back to the beginning, to the original setup, from the foundational setup that the founding fathers had, and get rid of all of this nonsense, all of these superfluous laws, everything that is just over the top, and let freedom ring.
Talk to your kids. Not just about the rise in hate, but listen to them too. Ask them what's going on in their school and on their campuses and what their friends are talking about. Be the adult in the room. Listen to them, but help them find the path. What are they seeing? What does it feel like? Are they subject to this? Are they seeing their classmates being so hurt by vile speech? And
What are they seeing? Vile speech? You mean you must mean hate? You must mean something illegal, because clearly you're not talking about things that are just free speech. Are you, Kathy?
signs at protests. How's it make them feel?
Oh, it's about feelings. I've been seeing a lot of this. Now, I've told you a few days ago that I follow a lot of these First Amendment audit channels. Some of them are complete bullshit, trying to give the actual ones a bad name, but we see COINTELPRO with everything, so that's not surprising. However, what I did notice was that there's been a sudden change about the way that law enforcement operates, and they've been operating on feelings, emotion, shit that. So clearly they're getting memos that the rest of us are not.
Encourage your children, especially the older ones. Don't just be a bystander. Be an upstander. Stand up for your classmates. Stand up for your friends. And talk about engaging each other in a respectful, tolerant way. Because the lessons that are being taught now, what young people are absorbing.
People should be pissed off. To think for 1 second the trajectory that this nation is going, the things that are occurring, and to even have the audacity to sit there and try to lecture the people and warn them nonetheless that they're going to be looking into what they say. No, not anything to do with the crime. No. Just what they say. And if it's negative, and if it, right from the very beginning of the speech, she lets you know that they had an emotional tone, an emotional basis. Things that just don't make you feel good. Which is to be expected, because that's the natural progression of using broad brush terms like hate speech. How can we further that? Well, hate speech doesn't go far enough. What can we do next? Well, feelings. Does it hurt your feelings? We've seen this coming with the safe spaces and the campuses. All of this shit is by design. None of it is organic. None of it is by accident.
And understanding will be with them for the rest of their lives. This is a time of great influence on our young people. And parents have a responsibility and an opportunity to guide them to do what's right. So as adults, they understand the beauty of diversity, celebrate our differences. But also, if you're a parent...
Before, I wanna check something out real quick. Governor Kathy Hochul, God gave us vaccines.
Governor Kathy Hochul, God gave us.
And you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine. That is from God to us. You're a parent who's worried about the path your child is on. You're seeing things, you're hearing things, you're anxious. There are opportunities for you as well. Explain to your children the difference between disagreeing on a policy that a government may take and displaying hate toward an entire group of innocent people. There is a difference. And counselors are available to help parents as well with the messaging, how you help reduce the tension. The only way that New York State stands true to our core values of tolerance and inclusivity is for all of us to do our part to create the kind of society we want to live in. At the end of the day, what is New York but a place that's comprised?
A shithole. New York is a shithole with a bunch of tyrants running rampant. And that is going to be ground zero for one of the major jobs in the next 30 days. That's what it is.
People from all over the world. They come here because they're persecuted elsewhere. They came here for a better life. Jewish, Muslim, Arab, black, brown, white, young, old, it doesn't matter. They all came here. They're living here. And there's so much out there that should bring us together instead of driving us further apart. We don't always have to agree with each other. I don't expect we will. Most people don't agree with the person sitting across from them at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
All right, enough's enough. I encourage you guys to pick up where I'm leaving off and listen to the remainder of this piece of this remainder of this speech. But they've been busy. They've been busy identifying and responding to bias incidents. Wait, what? Identifying and responding to. Okay. Who's this from? Oh, SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which the government gets a lot of data from. So it's probably a good idea to pay attention to what's coming out of the SPLC. What is a bias incident? Well, we're going to learn. A bias incident is conduct, speech, or expression. You mean it's the First Amendment? It's your First Amendment in whole part. It differs from a hate crime. It differs from a hate crime in that no criminal activity is involved. I want to remind you about Kathy Hochul's beginning of the speech when she said that, thank goodness that I worked this week. Had I not, they might not have had them couple extra tax dollars to add to make sure there was a hotline to report these bias incidents. To the DHS, by the way, to emergency management. They're not playing around. This isn't a joke. This is, I make videos all the time. I brush through them and I'm on to the next. I'm focused on this one. This is day 2. I'll probably be at it tomorrow too, breaking other parts of the speech down, talking about the different factions that are involved in it. Because this is the first time ever in the United States history that the government is openly explaining to their constituents, to the citizenry, which is a joke because the citizenry is the nation. They have the power. And they don't unless they choose to acknowledge that they do and use it. But right now, everybody's sitting idly by, thinking that the government is the be-all and end-all. And as such, they can get away with some shit like this. Or try to get away. If this, 900 views, are you kidding me? 900 views for the most tyrannical speech ever to grace the United States? A bias incident is speech or expression. Yeah, your First Amendment, but wait, motivated in whole or in part by bias, which is what? Everybody has a bias. We all have our ideas. What they mean to say is if it's a bias that they don't approve of, that they haven't rubber stamped through their mainstream media as acceptable. It differs from a hate crime in that there is no criminal activity involved. Don't let that stop them. While hate crimes, if charged and prosecuted, will be dealt with in court systems, schools must handle bias incidents through grievance procedures and educational programs. And don't think they're just talking about schools. Educational programs, re-education. Both hate crimes and bias incidents, however, demand a unified and unflinching denouncement from school leaders. 10 tips for identifying bias incidents: slurs, epithets, hate symbols. Guys, remember this? Remember this guy that literally was like okay outside of his truck and got all sorts of media attention for right? They will use anything and say that it's inappropriate. It's that they will tie anything they can to anything they can. That's why we cannot give an inch on this. We cannot allow this. That number I called and left a message, you should do the same or something similar. Or write an email, let it out. If this is because the rest of these states are judging right now. They're like, wow, did she really just get away with that? 900 views, yeah, it looks like it's going unnoticed. Let's push through. And wait till you see the millions and millions and millions of dollars that are being spent on this. This isn't a small endeavor. This is massive. The perpetrators admit their conduct was motivated by prejudice, so what? Or that they selected their target based on their race, ethnicity, religion, disability, sex, sexual orientation, or other. So anything pertaining to identity is what they're saying. Guys, this is the most Orwellian shit I've ever seen outside of a movie or a book. If you think that I'm over exaggerating or blowing this out of proportion, do nothing, sit idly by and give it a little while. But if you trust my judgment, and if you think that throughout time I've kind of proven myself with situations like this, then please share this like you've shared no other. Make it a crusade. This should be a crusade anyway, guys. This isn't to some of you. It may just be another YouTube channel that you're subscribed to, and there's not a whole lot I can do to change that. Time will pass, and time will tell. But other than that, I'm rather limited by the amount of words I can say and the arrangement in which I can put those words in. Though I've tried, I ask of you to do what you think in your heart. If you stop and take a moment and truly try to be present in the moment of what is happening around you, and ask yourself, well, is there anybody that is doing everything they can to limit this? If so, who is it? Okay, how can I promote this? How can I spread this message? How can I get it out there? There's many, many, many different ways. There's leaving links. There's leaving comments. There's talking about it. First person exchanges are often some of the best. Or you can all believe that this is just happenstance. And coincidences. Following significant uptick in anti-Muslim and anti-Semitic rhetoric on social media, Governor Hochul deploys new resources to combat online hate. How much? How much? Let's go ahead and check it out. Governor Kathy Hochul today announced a series of actions to deploy all available resources to keep New Yorkers safe following a surge in hate and bias incidents. And the weeks following the October 7th Hamas terror attacks, they just keep coming out with these new terms, man. Like hate speech wasn't broad enough. Now they need bias incidents. Hamas terror attack. In an address to New Yorkers, Governor Hochul highlighted $50 million available for local law enforcement agencies to prevent and solve hate crimes and other crimes. $25 million in security funding for at-risk community groups and cultural centers. You're talking about $75 million right off the top. What's the fucking budget, Kathy? If you're unfamiliar with how much the government, your state government spends on things, you should go and take a look. And then come back to this and see how outrageous this is. Clearly, it's the most serious threat ever facing mankind to be throwing this type of money at it. These bias incidents. Bias incidents. Bias incidents. I'm going to get wrapping it up, guys. Only so much I can do. You can do more. You can do a lot more. All I am is the idea. You guys are the action, if you choose to be so. You've been here. You're here. God bless. Much love. Peace.